Welcome, world, to Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness movement. I am Reverend Sandy Rodgers, and as the creator of this historic event, it is my pleasure to welcome you. We come together to bring you this historic event. We have practitioners, holistic practitioners. We have medical doctors. We have spiritual individuals. This event is so lovingly dedicated to my mother, Mrs. Barbara Dean Brown. And my mother taught me like 40 plus years ago about the importance and the meaning behind herbs. And she would always say, we don't know what they putting in those pills, so you better not, get hooked on prescription drugs. And so we listened to Mom, but not all of us paid attention. My sister, bless her heart, was diagnosed recently thereafter with asthma, and she was prescribed prednisone, which is a very powerful steroid. And my sister actually got hooked on steroids, like someone out on the street kind of hooked, like on heroin or crack or something like that. And so my mom and my sister are both on the other side, living in the other dimension, but they're upholding me, and this is dedicated to their memory. So we don't want to come and make you change your mind about what you're doing. We just want to provide information to you, something different, so that you have options to choose from, so that you're not stuck. Because the environment that we now live in, the fast foods, the toxins in the air that we breathe and in the water that we drink, and the processed foods, and all of that is causing havoc on this precious body temple. So God created our bodies to heal themselves, but they can only heal themselves when they're fed and they're nourished and they're stress-free. And so the 60 or so or more experts that we have are bringing you this worldwide wellness movement in an attempt to share their testimonies and their information with you. So we have from age 14 on up. I don't even know what the oldest age is. I think 88 or something. So you see, that's a wide range of knowledge that we're bringing you. And so we hope that you come and that you get all the knowledge that you need to affect a positive change on your life, and share this with others. It's free, it's online, and so we're just so thankful that you decided to be a part of our listening community, the viewing community, and we certainly appreciate you for giving us your time of day and your energy and your efforts to being with us and to being a part of this historic event. We have pulled together people of color for you, by you, right? So we want to make sure that you understand that we too, melanated people with color, can enjoy, practice, and participate in some of these modalities that others have been doing for centuries, and that is pretty new to our community. So we talk about Qigong, we talk about meditation, yoga, spiritual work from a different perspective than religion. So we talk about the spirituality aspect. We talk about abuse in the families. We talk about all kinds of subjects because we know that in our communities there are layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that we never talk about that's causing a negative effect on our bodies and its healing process. So we address it, whatever it is, and we hope that you will benefit from the many experts that we have, and that you walk away with lots of knowledge and lots of new information, and that you become fully empowered to share information with others. So thank you for being with us. We love you and we bless you, and we look forward to doing this again. But thanks for being here with the first one. We appreciate you.
Life, love, and wellness. Life, love, and wellness.
Welcome to Life, Love, and Wellness Global, a worldwide wellness webinar. So today we have with us the beautiful, the talented, the incomparable Dr. Melodie Black. So Dr. Black, would you please introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Good morning. My name is Dr. Melodie Black. I'm a chiropractor over at Life University. I've been practicing since 2007, so this is year 11 now. But I have private practice is MJ Mitchell Wellness located in Kennesaw. But I'm also a full-time faculty clinician in the outpatient clinic over at Life University in Marietta, Georgia, using our hands. So it's that practice with chiro with our hands. And so what we do is there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves that come out of your back of your spine. And so those nerves go to every muscle, every bone, every organ, and every tissue in our body. And so when those nerves come out and they go to all those different areas, they communicate back and forth with messages. And so if there's a bone out of place in your spine, that's what us as chiropractors do to make sure we locate where that misplaced bone is. And with the use of our hands or sometimes an instrument, we move those bones back into their proper place so that that communication can still go free between your nerves. And so we make sure that we correct misalignments in the actual spine, which are the bones down the back.
That sounds so interesting. So our bones in our back and our spine can be out of alignment and we can still move around and not really know?
We can have all those different actions going on without knowing that there is a misfunction. And so the bones come out, and so you have the back of your head and you have the nerves that go all the way down from the back of your head, all the bones to your hips and your tailbone. And so it could be a very slight misalignment where the bones are supposed to be on top of themselves, and it could be just a slight little shift. And you can see with my hands, if I have a slight shift, there's not a good space in between. And so that's what will happen if you hear of a pinched nerve. If you hear that on TV or hear that and mentioned somewhere, that is a lot of times can be the issue, is that there is a misplaced bone. And so what we do is we shift those bones back into their proper place, and in that way you have correct communication and correct flow. So sometimes it can be painful, and a lot of times people don't know that they have that issue until pain is present. And well, let me go to a doctor, let me go ask and see what's going on, let me find out where this pain is coming from. But there's also a possibility that there's a bone out of place without pain being present, but that function is diminished in the area where those nerves and tissues and all that is supposed to have correct flow back and forth, and it's got a little bit of resistance. And so we try to locate that for you so that we can help you understand that this misalignment could interrupt function somewhere else in your body. And so it's another good way to take care of your body is to make sure that every area has proper communication, which is back and forth with making sure there's no misalignment. So that's what us as chiropractors do. That's the main premise, is to make sure that we can correct those misalignments, but to also be an advocate with you so that you can be aware of how best to take care of your body.
It's so fascinating. So if a person has been told that they have back issues, can you still help, or do they necessarily need to go have the surgery to correct the imbalance with the bones?
We try to make sure that we can help as much as possible. So it's ideal to make sure that you get checked early and often. And in that way, if there's ever an issue where there is an injury, sometimes drugs and surgery is necessary because the injury is just too far great. But for prevention and maintenance and, well, let me make sure I'm good and healthy outside of an injury, outside of major surgery, that is what chiropractic can really do, because it can keep the whole family healthy. A lot of times people wait until there's a car accident, or they wait until there's something devastating to an injury. But I often tell many clients, many students, many patients that people of all ages have a spine, and children, middle-aged adults, older adults, all of us have ways that our bodies can function better, and that is where chiropractic can help. So you're never too young, and you don't have to wait until there's a pain or strain or injury. Do it for prevention and maintenance, just like to comb your hair or brush your teeth. Okay, let me take care of my spine. Let me take care of the bones in my back.
That's beautiful. Is the fact of childbirth, of being pulled from the mother, could that, like with the forceps, could that be like the very beginning of our spine being out of alignment?
That's actually exactly right. That is the case of the first possible misalignment that we can have, is just by the nature of childbirth and delivery of getting us here into the world. A lot of times, if it has to be, it could be a regular natural delivery without a lot of drugs or epidurals or anything involved, and it's just the mom pushing the baby out and them twisting the baby as they pull. That's enough in their neck to make sure that there is a misalignment that doesn't quite all the way go back into a full proper place. And so my personal experience, the youngest child I've ever adjusted was 6 weeks old.
Wow.
With a very great delivery and someone that was very in tune with natural health and holistic and chiropractic. And so, of course, mom and baby had a great delivery in the hospital, and they came to see me, those first few weeks later, so that I can, of course, welcome the baby and take care of the baby with an adjustment. And so that particular patient, I was able to take care of mom all throughout her pregnancy, and the delivery went very well. No issues or complications, and the baby is doing well as well. So yes, with childbirth, it is traumatic. Sometimes there's C-sections, sometimes there's instruments that they got to use just to make sure that baby and mom can safely get through the entire delivery process. And so we try to make sure that if it's just a small adjustment where we, get that misalignment out of the infant's neck, just to make sure that the baby is okay, that is one of the first adjustments, but that's also stemming from the very first misalignment that we can have. So never too young.
So how does that benefit the child?
That
the
will
baby?
benefit an infant of literally hours or days or weeks old. It will benefit them immediately with making sure that those early stages of development, that there's no hindrance or any backup in function, because there are nerves that come out right at the base of our skull, right there close to our brain stem and our brain activity. And so for an infant, you definitely want to make sure, if they're literally that young, that they have no problems with any flow, because that's the part of their continued development and growth. Now later on, if it's a child that's more closer to toddler age, that's often a time where there's a lot of ear infections, or they're teething and they're starting to cut teeth for the first time as their teeth grow in. And so a lot of those issues can come from making sure that we don't have anything that's blocked. And so if they're teething and they have they're drooling and a lot of that, and they're kind of making sure that as those teeth come in, they don't have any issues with pain will come. But if you want good circulation, it's good to make sure that child continues to get adjusted in even those misalignments, because it can help everything circulate better and hopefully hold back the process of ear infections coming so often. It's not a cure-all, but it's definitely something that can help, because maybe it can make sure that they're less frequent or less severe when they do come. A lot of times, same experience with a different patient, had a child that had colic, so lots of gas, and their stomach was very tight, tight and gas bubbles, and that baby can't talk to let us know that they are in pain. They're just crying and crying, and the mom was almost at her wit's end. And it turned out that there was a misalignment lower in the child's back, but that helped to release a lot of circulation issues they was able to release the gas, thankfully, but they was also more comfortable and able to sleep. So with different examples like those, when it comes to infants, toddlers, and later on when our kids get more active with sports, chiropractic care can help out a lot, because it's a lot of prevention that we try to make sure that we target with the parents. And that way, hey, you know, they're strong, they're stable, mostly injury free. When it comes to the infants and pre-K and starting school and just being exposed to a lot more germs, it really helps with immune system, because those nerves in the immune system is keeping the child a little bit more stronger, so they can build up resistance a little bit better to those common issues. And same thing, it can still come, but maybe it diminishes how long those different colds and things last. And so I really can't reiterate enough that it's really good for prevention aspects, because you save time and money by making sure that you have a good health routine, and chiropractic can definitely be a part of that for children, for adults, for really us of all ages.
Those are excellent points, especially with children. I had never considered how important it is, especially with the boys and the girls playing sports. I know as a teenager I played baseball and slid into second base and twisted my knee and had to have surgery. And so as far as the back and the alignment, it was never considered and never talked about. So thank you for those points, especially for our children. One of the things when I did my initial assessment in going to a chiropractor is that they questioned me in regards to traumatic experiences, and I didn't think I had any. And so the person was, well, what have you ever been in a car accident? And that was when I realized that playing sports was traumatic to the body. Even like you were talking about the C-section that I had in delivering my child. And so those are situations that we don't understand the correlation with our spine in those situations, so that we don't consider going to a chiropractor, or a lot of us don't even know that a chiropractor exists.
Yeah, a lot of times that is it's a common aspect that people only think about a doctor in a time of pain or in a time of crisis. And so sometimes chiropractors fell into that box as well, where it's like, well, I won't think about getting my back fixed by a chiropractor unless I have an accident. And that's not the case. It's something where, of course, that's a scenario where we can be very beneficial. And so are scenarios where there's other healthcare providers that can be beneficial in those times of distress. But I like to emphasize that with maintenance care and self-care is something that we really don't pay attention to as much. And it can help so much more by making sure that there's not really serious chronic disease issues or chronic pain issues that you have to deal with later in life, by taking care of yourself younger and all throughout your life. You know, it's one of those things where just like you form those building blocks with education so that you can be more, have access to more resources as an adult, you start with those building blocks young. What do I read? Learning to read, learning math, all those different aspects, so that it can make you really more accountable for what you plan to do in your future. Well, I say that that's the same aspect that you should take with your health. You are mindful of the food that you eat. You cater to the things that you like, but you also wanted to make sure that it is a way to form nourishment for your body. So with the nerves, with our bodies, making sure that the spine, all of our joints, that everything is moving in a correct aspect, that sets you up to being able to be healthy for your family, for yourself, for your future goals and aspirations that you have in your life. You have to have your health to be able to carry you through. It's a statement that's been kind of thrown around, health is wealth, but you can have the very richest people in the world, but if they don't have good health, all that money doesn't do much for them. And it's the same even if you're not rich. You got to be able to have a a body that carries you through that hopefully functions well. And so when we ask about background, and when most doctors are trying to see, well, tell us your story. Do you have past trauma? Do you have past issues? Like I mentioned before, all of those are building blocks to could explain why your body reacts the way that it does, why you may compensate, and why you may or try to reserve in different areas. It all kind of helps us piece together a puzzle that is you, and that helps us have a better understanding. Well, how do I better take care of you now that I understand what you have been through? And so a lot of times we ask about traumatic when it's physical trauma, and now it's more things in the media and in news and in books where it's just like, okay, make sure you take care of mental and emotional trauma, because there's all these different things affect how your body can function. And so if you want your body to function the best way, well, let me make sure that we kind of put a Band-Aid on every wound that you have within reason. We try to get to those wounded and traumatic areas so that you truly can heal. And so I think it's a good aspect that people understand that if they've been through some sort of accident or injury, it could come up with issues later. And so when you try to deal with it at that time, make sure that you work with people who are good healthcare providers to help you really get the full extent of the best healing that you deserve, so you can feel better and live your best life.
Some of the time, we don't know what feel good really feels like.
That's
because we've been in pain all of our life, and so it's like, I'm okay, I'm really okay. And so that was my experience.
Okay.
I didn't know that my body was out of alignment or that I could live a better lifestyle. And so why do you think that chiropractic care is not spoken about a lot in our communities, or that our general practitioners are not telling us or referring us to chiropractors, so that we do experience a more balanced, total, healthy lifestyle?
I think that the word is getting out a little bit better, but you're right, it's not as advertised as much. And so anything like this, we really try to be impactful with doing a little bit more community outreach. And in that way, it's like, well, who are you and what do you do? Now we can kind of come into more of an aspect of starting as a grassroots on the ground with community events and different festivals and different outreach programs that the school is invited to. I also encourage future doctors as they come out, get out into your community, set up a booth and let them know about the services you provide. And I think as we kind of get more exposure in those ways where we just tell people more about what chiropractic offers outside of a pain management aspect, that people will start to really give it more of a try, and that they will really get on board. I just think the best thing about where things are going is, in the past there's been a little bit of pushback about alternative or holistic or natural medicine. I think now as people read more, as people get more exposure to it, as they research more and read about it on the internet and hear about it from different friends and books and different places, that they really start to get a better understanding of what that can provide as a good choice. And so that way, at least you have a lot of areas where you can take care of your body, and chiropractic could be one of them. So the exposure is growing, but there's still strides to make. As a profession, there's lobbyists that are in place in most of the organizations, and here at the state level, there's chiropractic associations that really try to connect so that we can get a little bit more branding and a little bit more exposure and dollars allocated towards, hey, we deserve to be talked about and discussed as much as WellStar and as much as some of your other major medical providers. And so it's coming around, and I think it's going in a good direction.
How would someone go about choosing a chiropractor?
There's different aspects. So most people really try to make a point to look up things on the internet so that they can see what's in their area. And so that's the best search that I can start with is, chiropractor in your area, and being able to put that in a search engine, whether it's Google, and then we try to get a location that's convenient for you to be able to get to. And then when you are able to get to the nearest provider, just, ask questions. You are your own health advocate, and there may be things that you want them to help you target with specifically. There may be information that we can provide that you don't even think of, and that way it can become a lifestyle and a healthcare partnership. Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to gain weight? Are you in pain? Are you trying to get more energy? We kind of come along and assist you with how you can meet those goals. And then once you've met them, set new goals and make sure that we can get you in a lifestyle that you can manage and keep up. Because like I mentioned before, you definitely deserve to have a good life and good longevity. And if it's something where sometimes as moms, we're on autopilot and I'm fine, and you just keep going. And husbands and dads, same thing. It's like, I gotta work, I gotta go, I gotta provide, and everybody's kind of on autopilot to tune things out. We help you kind of come up with more self-care and tune into yourself. It's not selfish at all, because that way you can be in a place of longevity for your family and for all the things that you enjoy. And so that's a start where it's like, look up ones that are close to your area. And when you are able to go, ask questions. Many try to make a point to offer affordable prices. And so hopefully that wouldn't be an issue. That can be a thing to hold you back. Many take insurance, and many work with, assistance and discount programs. And they don't turn away Medicare. And so there's packages and aspects and affordable for everybody involved. And so that's a start where you can just see who is close to you, and then try to have some questions written down when you go in, and then that way that can kind of help them really fine tune what they can to provide for your particular care.
Great answer. My exposure to chiropractic care came about. I actually had gone into an herb shop looking for some relief from psoriasis and eczema. My feet and my hands were extremely swollen, and in the attempt to get the inflammation down and to control that, the co-owner, a doctor, was in the shop the day that I went in, and he is a chiropractor.
Okay.
And he introduced me and was like, well, let me check. And I'm like, well, what would that have to do with my swollen limbs?
Yeah.
And so I made no connection initially, but I see so much of the benefit in my overall health and sleeping better, feeling better overall. And so that's why I made that statement earlier, that sometimes we don't know that we're in not the best health because we've never experienced the best health. So I feel so blessed to have learned of the practice, and I think it's absolutely wonderful what you guys do to benefit our health.
Yeah, it's a good aspect, because you never know until you're on the other side of it. And so, like I mentioned earlier, every organ, every tissue, every muscle, all the way down to your cells, have to work back and forth with getting information from the nerves. And so things that you don't even think would be connected all of a sudden start to get better. Wow, my limbs aren't as swollen. Eczema and skin issues are starting to clear up because all of those different aspects aren't inflamed as much. It's all functioning better. That flow is better because of the communication between the nerves, the tissues, and the brain. And as chiropractors, we just make sure that there's free flow in between, right at your spine, so that your body can function at its most peak level, at its best performance. And so I'm glad that, he was, in tuned enough to really offer his services. And word of mouth is the best referral. It's just like reading any review on the internet. You may wonder about a business or wonder about a restaurant. It's like, well, I won't go unless somebody tells me about it. Oh, go over here. Hey, this they have great food there. Or hey, go to my friend, she does great nails. Or my friend that does great hair. It's like, yeah, you look great. I know to go because I see the proof in your work and I trust your word. That's the best thing that you can offer with getting more exposure to chiropractic as we come out and do a little bit more outreach as well.
Right. So, what other areas or what other modalities do you practice either professionally or personally in the realm of wellness?
Well, in the realm of wellness, I also make a point to follow with good aspects of nutrition. Personally, one of my hobbies is working out and going to the gym. And so through that, I was able to get into bodybuilding. And so at first, I had good friends who work at different gyms, just kind of say, hey, you like to stay in shape anyway. Have you ever seen or are you interested in participating in a bodybuilding competition? And so when that was offered to me locally, I kind of thought nothing of it. And like, well, let me give it a try. It couldn't hurt. And it turned out to be something that really blossomed into bodybuilding for about 5 years now. With Muscle Mania is the main organization that promote quite a few shows. There's several out there, but that's the organization that my friends and I are part of and participate in. There's different categories, and so the category that I competed in is figure. And so with different categories, it comes different guidelines. And so at first, when I got into this and I thought about the old pictures of the Arnold Schwarzenegger and the bodybuilders, it's like, I don't want to be a woman that buffs up like that to almost look like a man. But then that's when I understood what the different categories are. And so you got bikini girls, who's like your Sports Illustrated models, they're curvy. Figures for those who are in between, you got curves, but you also got quite a bit of muscle tone. And physique is the category for those who are like super shredded, which is probably what we've all can recall from seeing old magazines and current websites and current web postings. And so it blossomed into something that was really interesting, but it also aligns right with wellness as far as my actual profession. And so I kind of got to walk and talk the talk a little bit more, because I've always had a healthy lifestyle, but then it was kind of peaked a notch when it came into bodybuilding competitions. And so that's what I do when I'm not helping others, but it turns out to be something that kind of blossoms and grows, not only myself as a quote brand or so, but just to really be exposed to being able to network with people in the health and fitness industry, because that's a whole industry and entity that people can recognize from seeing how in shape men and women are. But just to see what that all entails with nutrition, with wellness care, like we was discussing earlier, it took things up to a whole nother level.
So what's in store for Dr. Black? Do you have ideas to go into different modalities, or what do you see on the horizon for yourself?
The horizon is pretty wide. It's pretty bright. My background is in sports medicine as far as working with basketball and football teams. And so with modalities of that aspect is, learning how to also use different instruments, because all chiropractors are also certified in physical therapy. And so I'm certified in being able to perform with modalities such as ultrasound and lasers and different instruments. And so if that's an aspect where we're looking to explore, okay, do I work at a team level again? with a rigorous schedule. That is in discussions. Still will be teaching over in Life University and working in the outpatient clinic. And but also with the bodybuilding and the competing that I mentioned before, definitely looking into competing again probably next year. And then also been toying with the idea of yoga certification, and so that might be something on the horizon next year as well. All things flowing to just take better care of my body and being able to make sure that I share that wealth with the world.
And what message would you like to leave the worldwide audience?
Definitely want to leave the message of health and wellness are one of the best legacies that you can keep and spread out to your family and friends. There's a lot of things where we try to make sure that we try to build and get so much with money and other aspects of building wealth. But I think the best wealth that you can build is the health and understanding of good care and good health care for your mind, body, and spirit.
Well, thank you, Dr. Melodie Black. It has been my pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
Today we have with us Queen Mother Reverend La Boyd, and she's going to share with us who she is, how she got to where she is, and the work that she does in the world. And we'll take it a little bit further from there. So, Sister La, would you please introduce yourself?
Greetings and thank you so much, Sandy, for inviting me to be part of this phenomenal experience. I'm truly honored. I am Reverend Linda La Boyd, and my journey has been as a health educator to incorporate various tools that I've accumulated along the way to assist in providing services to our community. And so today we're talking about the gerontology piece, and it's one of my specialties. I took a course at Clayton State University that certified me as a specialist in aging, gerontology. I think the most important piece I learned out of that 9-month course was that we begin to age from the time we're conceived, every single one of us. So it's not about being a certain age, over 40, 50, 60. From the time of conception, we began our aging process, and it's a wonderful thing. We talk about the importance of acknowledging the aging process. We talk about the importance of acknowledging those that are considered elders and looking at them in a way that, yes, things are changing. Things began changing for each one of us when we stopped hopscotching without any effort. So to be able to really tune in, to ask them, can you assist them? To pay attention to what you hear the reply as well as how you see their body move or not, then that's how we know how to approach and assist if we're being asked to assist in any way. It's a phenomenal experience to be able to connect with our aging community, to be able to have them open up, because they are checking you out. When you approach them and you begin to speak to them, if you're trying to get information, they are doing what I call a scanning. Scanning just not of your physical appearance, but your energy. And then that lets them know whether or not they can relax and communicate with you on any level. If they can reveal to you what may be going on with them, if they trust you. And that trust thing is so, so important. Because remember, they've been walking a journey and there's been a lot of experiences along the way. So they're having to decipher whether or not they should open up on you, with you, I'm sorry. We talk about how the medical allopathic doctor has been allowed to experience expecting their trust. And so many of our aging community just trust the person in the white coat, the person with the MD behind their name. And with that trust, they give away so much of themselves. So we are inviting them to re-look at how much trust we give others outside of ourselves, because they come with a trunk full of knowledge and wisdom and experiences that really worked for them and their families when they were growing up in regards to alternative and complementary medicine and care. People coming in with shoe boxes full of medication. And here we are in a time right now where they've taken the alcohol and the cigarettes off the commercials on television. Now between the lawyers that chase the ambulances and the pharmaceuticals, anything you think you might feel in your body, somebody's already talking about it on a commercial or infomercial. So considering how much time many non-ambulatory elders that may be just sedentary and not getting up and getting out as much, and just letting the TV watch them, but even when they're not watching, it's still programming into their psychological thought pattern. And they're being told, well, if you have a stiff knee, then there's a medication that we have for you, and check with your doctor, and your doctor will prescribe it for you, and we could even give you a discount. Better yet, you don't even have to go out to the pharmacy. We'll mail it to you. So there's a lot of information being bombarded. And so our level and our ability to be able to communicate with that aging population, with those that are so fed into everything the physician says, and not allowing the body to heal itself, as a conversation we've been having quite a bit during this webinar, then to allow them to find that trust in you and for them to hear you, or for them, that alternative conversation is very important.
It's truly interesting how you made the connection that the alcohol and the tobacco has been taken off but replaced with prescription medications. That I had never made that correlation between the two, but it's all destructive to the human body.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome.
Absolutely. And so they're really being bombarded with information. So take it up to an upside. Let's look at our senior centers. We live here in the Metro Atlanta area, Fulton County, and the blessing is that we have some phenomenal senior centers all over the county and in different counties as well. These facilities are offering so many different types of activities. They're having specialists come in and speak on all levels: the physical exercise, the line dancing, the yoga, and for those that need a chair yoga, it's available. The pools are available, open first thing in the morning. They don't have chlorine, just a little chlorine, but mostly saline. And the difference in there being a saline pool as opposed to a chlorinated pool is the joints in the body. And then the pool being warm, 80 plus degrees, the body temperature, so that those that are having mobility issues, you just walk down the stairs, hold the side of the pool, and you just walk. You just walk. Why? Because the water is massaging your body every time you move. And your body loves it, and it makes you happy. And there's no gravity pulling down, so you're able to be mobile effortlessly. And so then there's the water aerobic classes and so on and so forth. There's the weight rooms. There's the rooms where you can learn the classes for crocheting, calligraphy, art, just so many different activities that not only can physically get you moving, but they're stimulating. And we know the importance of remaining as stimulated for the brain to keep it healthy as well. So we are living in a time also with all these other adverse things going on that there's positive facilities and activities available if we choose to participate in them. And we strongly encourage the seniors to participate in these activities. The churches have the Silver Sneaker programs, free, no cost. 3 times a week, you just go to a class, you get to the church or the center, and you get an hour and a half of activity. So those things are so important because we have to keep the body moving in order to keep it healthy.
That's beautiful, because a lot of times what we have a tendency to do is to think that a person reach a certain age and they're old. And so just let them be, don't worry about it. Like you say, let them watch TV and let the TV watch them, whichever way it turns out to be. But you're actually honoring the aging population with the work that you're doing. I know that you took a group of seniors, I believe they were like in their 70s, 60s and 70s and 80s maybe, and you taught them what we've been talking about, the energy work of Reiki and how to do Reiki on themselves to affect a healing process. Will you share that with us, how that turned out?
Yes, Sandy, thank you. I love research. And so while I was taking my 9-month course over at Clayton State, we all had a project to do, and immediately Spirit said, you're supposed to do your paper on the energy work. So being an advanced Reiki master teacher, and I facilitate classes, so I can teach people how to bring their vibrations up so they can utilize it for themselves. So I decided to do a research project. And I called a dozen sisters aged 65 to 80 and asked them if they would participate in a program for me. And I used the word program, and I didn't use the word research. And so 6 randomly were chosen to learn Reiki, and the other 6 would use their normal procedure for the exercise and physical activity during a 30-day period. So the sisters that were randomly chosen to learn to take the class, we had our Reiki attunement workshop on a Saturday afternoon, which was a phenomenal experience. Even just their feedback during the class of the practicum of working on each other and touching each other and seeing what that felt like, and each person taking a chance to get on the table as well as offering the energy work to each other. So every week, each student, whether they were the practitioners or the ones that were using a normal program for exercise, because we were measuring physical discomfort, aches, pains, whatever was going on in your physical body that was uncomfortable, we want to measure and look at it and see what might be different. So everybody sent in one of the smiley face sheets weekly and let me know. Once a week they fill out the form, let me know how they're feeling in these different areas, the stress, the physical discomfort. At the end of the 30 days, I did a conference call. So everyone had the number. It was really interesting, and it tickled me as well because there were sisters that had never been on a group call like that before. We all here? We all here? Yes, we're all here. So what I asked the sisters that had taken the Reiki class a couple of questions so that we can all hear what their feedback. I already had it on paperwork, but I wanted each of them to hear and exchange with each other. And it happened that every single one of the 6 people that were attuned were only asked to do an energy session on themselves 3 times a week. Choose the morning, night, whenever you wanted to do it. You could do it while you're watching television, didn't matter. I just would ask them to lay their hands on themselves, rub their hands together, lay them on themselves just 3 times a week. every one of them started doing it daily. And they talked about how the discomfort had lessened. Another one talked about how she was able to do an extra lap around the gym, and just the positive feedback they had for themselves from beginning to do self-healing on themselves. We had one sister who said that she was doing sessions on her sister-in-law. How cool is that? Real cool. So she was doing health healing sessions on her sister-in-law, and the other group who had not yet been attuned were just really excited and looking for their class, which we had. So thank you for asking.
You and I have done community fairs, health fairs around the city of Atlanta and on the outskirts. And it appears that we, regardless to what the audience is, if it's youth, if it's adults, if it's men, if it's women, that people of color are not familiar with the terminology energy work. Can you break that down and explain what it does or doesn't do for the overall healing and wellness of your body?
Well, energy is everything we see and we don't see. Everything is energy. The breeze, okay? Your movement, your speaking, someone touching you on the cheek, someone looking at you and giving you a smile. When we get the news of something negative happening in the world and we react, that's energy. And whatever someone does to overtly perpetrate that act that may be negative, that's energy. Everything is energy. In regards to the work that we've done in the community, I think one of my callings is that we take this self-healing, the type of healing that Jesus the Christ did, what we consider Big Brother did walking this earth, who told us that we too can do what he did, because every single person comes out the womb with gifts, every one of us. It's just that we're not necessarily encouraged or shown, or we're given other information that's adverse to you being able to touch yourself. And you know how good it is when you touch yourself, and you know the reactions you get when you just lay your hands on someone's shoulders. Even without the touch, the look you might give to someone, a nod, is energy. Everything is energy. And so knowing that everything is energy, what we hear, what we see, what we say, and what we don't hear, then we know it's a powerful source, and it comes from the divine. And so how we use it or not is what makes the difference in how the flow is. So getting back to the activities we've done throughout Metro and around Atlanta and the state of Georgia pretty much, it has been absolutely phenomenal to be able to come into a setting that's not necessarily called a wellness event, but called a community health fair. And to set up chairs and allow people to just sit down and have the wonderful practitioners. And these are people that decided, I'm going to take a Reiki class, I want to be attuned. And then I invite them, well, come and see what this works for, how people respond to it. Come out into the community and offer it. And how the person that sits in the chair that knows nothing about what you're getting ready to offer other than it feels safe. And then you whisper in their ear and ask them if they're okay with being touched. You ask them, you let them know, just take a couple of deep breaths and relax. And if you want to close your eyes, you can, but you don't have to. And they feed right into that. They're okay. It seems like as soon as they sit down, it's like, do whatever. And then to watch people shift because someone just put their hands on their shoulders to connect with them. And then they may put their hands in front of their face or on the side of their face or in front of their heart chakra. And to watch these people just totally go into this relaxed space, the space of, I'm submitting, I feel safe, and then even let go. Whether or not they go into a meditative place, there are people that go to sleep in a chair, And these are sessions that may be 10 minutes. We are just vessels of the Most High's energy. And we said, okay, Divine, come through us and show us how to assist. It's not that practitioners are healing or fixing anyone's anything. We can only heal thyself. So it has been a phenomenal experience for us to go out into the community, whether it's a religious setting, whether it's a professional setting, whichever setting, and then offer this to the community and get this tremendous, tremendous feedback. It's exhilarating and it's inspiring on every level. We talked about the electromagnetic rays. Let's revisit that a little bit.
Okay, please.
Because the electromagnetic rays, right now the conversation is we're going from 4Gs and they want to up them to 5. Okay, the Gs are the rays that they put in the phones and all those that are emitting from these instruments to us. So you want to take 4Gs, you want to come from 4Gs coming into my crown and my head, and you want to take it up to 5, going into my crown, to my brain, and which is emitting through my entire body. So we talked about what can we do to lessen this kind of energy that's just bombarding our bodies. And we were really recently at a lecture at Holistic Stress Control Institute where the lecturer was kind enough to talk a bit about all this energy that's being emitted to us right now, all these electromagnetic rays. And an excellent question came up in the audience. What do we do about this? You know, I think the person mentioned that their telephone sometime turns off or acts in a certain kind of way. So what was suggested was to use some tools that may be available to us. And these tools are actually stones and crystals that come from the earth. There's a black stone called black tourmaline, which actually lessens, kind of diverts electromagnetic rays from the body. And then there's the other stone called selenite. So tourmaline is black and selenite is white. Yin yang, perfect balance. And the two of these stones and crystals together are so powerful that they can balance any stone and clear any stone and crystal in the universe. They're a powerful team. That same team can take your phone. You can turn your phone off and lay them on the two of them, and they'll lessen the electrodes coming out, the neutrons that's coming out of the phone that will, when you turn the phone back on, that's coming into your head, into your body. So if you would consider moving all wireless apparatus from your bedroom at night, it should not be in there. Because if it's plugged in and it's on, it's working, it's coming in you. So if you would remove them from your physical sleeping area, put them in another area, turn it off, and lay it on the stones and crystal, it will lessen the electromagnetic rays coming out when you turn it back on to use. So there are tools out here to assist us. And you've heard about, I guess about 15 years ago, there was a promotion about a magnet that you could put on your phone. That's black tourmaline. Awesome. So we have those tools to use. And then for those of us that use crystals in our work, once again, you can use that tourmaline, that selenite, to clear that crystal if you just use it, so you can just use it again because it's been cleared from helping you or taking on whatever it was clearing from your physical place. I would like us to remember that we've been gifted a phenomenal, phenomenal machine temple. It's so full of magic, and it's your magic. And that if we would just allow it to do what it does, it heals itself. And that means the rest, the water, the proper nourishment and movement, it can just heal itself beautifully. And that each and every one of us has that opportunity to heal ourselves with the combination of the Most High's guidance, that we are already perfect. Without anything or anyone else, we are perfect. You are perfect. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Korey Lopez Gotoo. I am originally from Mexico. I came to the United States 20 years ago. And my background, per se, of my race, of my culture, is Mexican Indian, Japanese, French German, and Spanish. So I have the best of all worlds. And I love that. So colonics, I do hydrocolon therapy at Clear Path Wellness Center. I co-own the business, and we cater to help people to detox. It's detoxing, helping, for example, if they already have issues, medical issues that they need to detox. We help them to just to preventing our health. And how the colon therapy is performed is that we do have a room where we have purified water, and the device that helps us to bring the purified water, it's brings it nice and warm to the body and releases the waste. So it's very comfortable, very hygiene, and I'm able to be with the client in order to assist with massage on their intestines, massage a little reflexology in their hands, and talk and learn from them what are their needs. For example, if they are having regular bowel movements but they just need detoxing, so we cater to that. Or if they already have issues like constipation or digestive issues. So it's all catered to an individual, individually. So I loved what I do. I believe the Creator has have me in a place like this in order to assist myself, and that's how I started to having colonics. My health declined when I was 35 years old, a little bit because of the American diet, and so colonics and healthy eating, exercising has assisted me to be able to be better now and have a great life, I should say. Yes, healthy great life. So that's what we do for colonics, and that's how I became a therapist, because I realized the need of these services, and there's not many that I could see of therapists out there doing our service. So I love my clients. I call them angels, earth angels. So we assist each other to heal. Yes.
So what's considered a normal bowel movement?
Consider a normal one. First of all, if we're eating 3 times a day, we should be able to have 3 bowel movements. That
Per
is
day.
per day. That's considered for every meal that we have. But many of us don't, obviously, for a diet. Kind of a normal one will be like a banana look, per se, a little bit very soft, not broken down, but not hard. So that it's, any fluids, you sit in the toilet and things move faster, just not like you sit there forever, and then that is considered normal. Exactly. And then, of course, in between all of those, we have the constipation that too becomes to be like little rocks and boulders. I call it rocks and boulders. Or 2, diarrhea, because the body will create diarrhea in order to eliminate those rocks and boulders. So sometimes people will think, oh, I clean completely out because I had a diarrhea. Well, not necessarily. We can be surprised that there are other things in behind because they became dehydrated. So, yes.
Now I heard someone explain it, that the walls of the intestine,
Yes.
both the small and the large, flour and other food items like that can get stuck on the side like a plumbing pipe, and so it becomes clogged up, and that's one of the reasons why we're not able to have a normal bowel movement.
And absorption. That too causes not to have a good absorption of your foods. If many of us, because I include myself, are taking, which I call complements, not supplements, complements. So exactly. So if the walls of the intestines are clogged cover, whatever we like to say, then we're not absorbing the nutrition. And that's for every single one of us. Now, many of us, obviously, our diet here in the United States mostly too, is we have a lot of flour. So bread, pasta, potato, rice, and even dairy create issues like that in our intestines. Now, the best diet obviously is what God intended, which is raw fish, which is fruits and vegetables. Raw, the better. Light saute, where we're still not killing the nutrition from it. One of the things that I learned from one doctor, scientist, holistic, he told me, he says, dead food for a dead body. So it opened my eyes, because dead food, then start thinking about it, that is the processed foods. They're dead, they're really not alive, they're not fresh. And so I was thinking, wow. And then he says, live foods for a live body. So start thinking about the fruits, the vegetables, and everything. At the same time, he says, you never seen a pizza tree. I was like, oh my goodness. You never seen a bread tree. And I was like, okay, you make a point. Yeah, great. So that's how I too start thinking about it, obviously, how important is our diet, and fresh foods. Yes.
And you say that your digestive system was a little strained once you came in and took on the American diet.
Yes.
Because there's less fresh in our diet. Is that mainly what that was?
Yes, mainly I introduced a little bit more of bread and pastas and rice and all of those glue things. That's why we call it gluten. They glue in our intestines. That's what they are. So I introduced those a little bit more in my diet instead of more fresh and vegetables that I was accustomed to eat. And it created constipation. And with that created migraines for myself. Everybody's different. So was migraines, depression, and irritable bowel syndrome. And at the same time, about irritable bowel syndrome too, I was irritated. Many things would irritate me very easy. And I realized that why are they irritating me? Because it's not a big deal. But it was how I was feeling. So my intestines actually were running the rest of my body, especially my brain. So I felt a little bit foggy, like when where are the keys? Can't find them. I know I was going to do something. I forgot about it. Many things. My sleeping patterns were different. I was really tired, but I felt like I was not sleeping. So it seems like I slept, but I still tired. So many things. Then my belly felt bloated, gassy, and I felt toxic. So that's what really that diet did for me. Many of us tolerated a little more. Takes longer than what it took me, but at the same time, at the long run, it exists and it will do that. It will clog the intestines. So raw fish, fiber, it's very important in our diet. That's why vegetables, fruits are very important, because they bring nutrition, life nutrition, but two, they do a cleansing. So that gives us more regularity. So many of the clients too, they'll change their diet. But what will happen is in the beginning, they will still have effects of the gassy bloatiness and stuff, because it's still changing. It takes a little while. I would like to say with one colonics, I can say, great, you're good for life. Well, this is the answer. The answer is I'm still here at Clear Path after 11 years doing clients. And so that means I'm still here to take care of myself, because I know the importance. So everybody will be a different session, program, protocol. Mine, it is between 2 weeks to fluctuate 3 weeks to a month. And the reason is because it hydrates and cleanses and detoxes. So, yes.
I wonder how many people knew before you just said it that being irregular, not having a bowel movement after each time you eat, affects your mental health. So depression and irritability,
Yes.
that's really fascinating. I've never related the two together, so
Yes, and it is. It's amazing, but we don't because, again, knowledge is power.
right.
We have lost which our ancestors used to know. Every culture of ours have a background of actually medicine, herbal medicine. And so we used to actually know that the grandmother says, I have a headache, and they'll say, oh, pick up those herbs, make a tea, you'll be fine. You know, all of that is wonderful. And that's how, too, is important. We lost the ways to heal ourselves because we're not a tribe anymore, because we're not so close to our elders, and we are losing that information. So hopefully, my goal is to continue. When my clients come in, I can give them a little more information so we can pass on that, continue, and they can do that to their children, to their friends, to their family, and baby steps. I call it always baby steps. They say, well, I can do that. Baby steps. Hydration is important too for bowel movement. Very important. We need to drink at least, working toward half your body weight in ounces of water a day. So many only drink a glass a day. And they drink, though, coffee, juices, and stuff. It is liquid, but it's not water. So it is important to know that our body requires pH balance of hydration for our blood, and the same thing for detoxing. If we are not drinking enough water, our kidneys are going to recycle the pee back into the system, and that's too why we feel tired, sluggish, foggy, and everything, because the body's trying to function, and it's going to do so with whatever we have in. So yes.
And so with the colonics, there's a small tube
Yes.
that's inserted, and there's a water that helps to hydrate
Yes.
the intestines, so that
Yes.
the if there's any blockages in there, that
Yes.
it will help it to move. And you also use essential oils.
Yes, I use essential oils for example, when I do a little bit of the reflexology, I use either almond sweet oil or organic lotions to help assist me with that. And when we're doing the procedure, so the client, and I know for myself because I do my own colonics, is that we have a little bit symptoms of nauseous, or we have cramping, and just not feeling good and gassy. So I give them a little bit of peppermint oil with sometimes other essential oils, and then we breathe. Breathing is important, as we know, for everything. We are stressed, we should breathe. We hurt ourselves, we forget. We stop and we say, and we don't breathe, so it hurts more. So the idea is I'm trying to learn myself to do that. Everything, I hurt myself, and then it's like, breathe. If we do the breathing, I believe that the oxygen that comes obviously to our brain and to the action of relaxation, it helps to stop that. For example, depending what we're trying to accomplish. Let's say I have a client that is interested in really having a good detoxing, because then obviously too is going to make an effort to have a cleaner diet or whatever the reason is. So what we do is we'll talk about the recommendation from the doctors is that 2 colonics for every decade of our life. So if this person is 40, it will be 8 colonics, because 2 for every decade. In this case, like I said, this person wants to have a detoxing and then maintain. So it will be the first month I will be doing their colonics once a week. So that makes it 4. And for the rest, it'll be every 2 weeks. After that, the person will just come for maintenance between 1 month or 2 months. And that depends too, obviously, on their diet, their health, and how are they working with. You will be able to tell when you need it, because you'll notice that you're constipated, gassy, bloating. It's like, oh, I gotta go and do that. Does that make sense?
It does.
But yes, it's everything different. So for example, someone that is really doing a great diet and everything, once a month it's okay. The only thing we do is hydrate and loosen up the toxicity. So it's really important to do that.
So why isn't it more known? Why don't more doctors tell their patients when they go in to go and get cleaned out? It just sounds like that's such a perfect part of good health.
Yes, and it was long time ago. It was really long time ago. I believe maybe in the United States until 1920s, the colonics, the famous enemas or colonics, were done in the hospitals. Some of the patients will come in and they will get a colonic, and then the doctor will check on them, and then they'll do either the surgery, whatever it was needed, and then obviously because they knew at that particular time that the surgery will bring what? Constipation, because of the anesthesia and the painkillers. It's just obvious. And no movement, you're laying down on a bed, so if you don't move, you don't move. So that was the reason at that particular time. But after that, I believe we became more medicine oriented. So more laxatives, more pills, more things like that. And so that stopped. Now, to this point, I think what happened is that our doctors are not educated. I could be wrong, but maybe they're not educated so much in nutrition. I have heard that sometimes they only get one course of nutrition in their whole career because they spend the time of knowing more about medications, more about other things like surgeries and stuff like that. So that's the reason that we don't have that information from them. They do tell us, because I've gone to the doctors, and tell us to eat healthy, drink your water, and all of that. But just very general, drink your water, you'll be fine, it's exercise and stuff like that. So for me, actually, I have not been regular to going to doctors in 14 years. I could say that, but because I really do this, I live healthy as I can. Yes, though I do indulge, yes. Occasionally I'll have my cup of tea or my cup of coffee with cream a little bit, I'll try not to go too bad. Or I can use the coconut creamer, almond milk, things like that. So yes, and sometimes yes, I'll eat a little piece of cake, things like that. But it's in moderation. I know better that I can actually, it's important for me. I am a cyclist, crazy cyclist, and I love to do 100-mile bike rides. To me, actually, it's like going to church. It's my time with the Creator, because my ride is road cycling is up there outside. So I get to see the trees, I get to, climb the mountains, do fun stuff. So it is very exciting to do that because obviously I'm getting the exercise, cleansing the brain too, oxygen, more oxygen, lungs and everything. So I can let go of the stress and I can be a happier person. I realize that when I miss my cycling, I get a little kind of tired, a little depressed, maybe a little bit like, just kind of bored. But cycling is what I do, and I was honored that I had a team of 4 women in 2015, and we crossed the United States. Our team is Sorella Ram Team, and from California, Oceanside, California to Annapolis, Maryland. We did our race, and we got second place, and it was in 7 days, 7 hours, 21 minutes. So that was amazing. Enemas are great and they help. Though we need to do 2 or 3 enemas at the same time. For example, you do 1 bag, hold it, flush in the toilet. Then you do a second bag, hold it, flush. And a third one if it's possible. Why? Because your intestine is as tall as you are. Or is between 5 to 6 feet long. So with 1 little bag, it's not going to be able to flush everything from the intestine. That's why hydrocolon therapy helps, because we do many different flushes. So we are able to loosen a little bit more and then go a little bit further and then a little bit further. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. So yes, enemas could be the home remedy for the ones that can find a place like mine, and definitely the diet is very important. And then if they do that and they help themselves, it's a possibility too that some of the medications are not going to be needed. Because if you are healthy, you're not going to need, obviously, the high blood pressure medication. So those are the things that I normally tell. One of my clients came in with high blood pressure, and he's now fit and better than was before, but he's still taking the high blood pressure medication. And I told him, what's going on there? Well, they told me it's for life. And I'm like, baby, you gotta go and check it out again, because if the medication is there for many years, what does it mean?
Yes.
It's really not healing you. It's not healing you. So I suggest there are doctors, holistic doctors can assist. There are chiropractors, there are massage therapists too, because it helps with the lymphatic system, it helps with everything. So we're here to assist whoever wants to come. Yes.
Thank you so much, Korey. Is there any one last bit of advice, help, suggestion that you would like to leave?
Yes. And which I like to leave is love. Love. We have abundance of that. My personality is like that. All my clients, my friends, my family, I always tell them, honey, love, sweetheart, angel. And because we are earth angels to each other. And so no matter what we do not have to have per se caretaker lifestyle, but we still, so remember, we're angels to each other, so we help each other, and we hold the energy for each other. So that's my thing. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you, Korey.
Love and wellness. Life, love, and wellness.
Welcome to the program, Kim.
Thank you, Sandy.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you're invited.
Yes. Would you tell us who you are in your own words, please?
Oh, I'm Kim Kennedy. I'm a spiritual life coach, as well as a mom, as well as a teacher, and I have been doing radical forgiveness work as a certified radical forgiveness coach since 2007. So it's been a while, and I am still very enthralled with the work.
Yes, thank you. When I was first introduced to that concept, radical forgiveness, and I thought I knew all about forgiveness and what it was. And I actually had even written a book, with all the male relationships in my life, because I thought I had gone through that forgiveness and the levels of forgiveness. But it wasn't until I sat down in your classroom that I truly learned a whole different perspective. So can you tell us what radical forgiveness is?
Well, we have to contrast radical forgiveness with traditional forgiveness. So traditional forgiveness is somebody done you wrong, and you want to forgive them because you're spiritual now, but you still believe they did you wrong. And, so you're going to let water run under the bridge, but you knew they did you wrong. And you're going to, let bygones be bygones, but you knew they did you wrong. So as long as you're holding on to that thought and that energy of wrong, somebody did you wrong, that's an energy of blame. And you can't forgive and blame at the same time. You can't hold two energies in the same space at the same time. So traditional forgiveness doesn't work. It generally does not work. It takes a long time. It takes therapy. When I start to talk about radical forgiveness, the first question I ask, has anything ever happened to you in the past that you thought was bad at the time, but you look back on it and you say, well, that's probably the best thing that could ever happen. that has happened to many, many, many people. It happens all the time because that's the way the universe works. Everything happens for our spiritual growth, whether we know it or not. Everything happens for our spiritual growth. So with that concept in mind, if everything is happening for our spiritual growth, then really nothing bad is happening. And there's really nothing to forgive. Now, we're not going to jump to that space right away, right after somebody called you out your name. However, the truth is that happened for a reason. So we believe that everything happens for our spiritual growth. Nothing bad ever happens. And therefore, there's really nothing to forgive. The other thing we believe is if you spot it, you got it. That means that whatever you can't see in somebody else what is not in you, ever. So the things that you are upset with other people about are things that you're really not happy about for yourself. Now so we say here it's a mirror, you know, and if I'm looking in the mirror and I see lipstick coming down my face, I don't go to the mirror to fix it. I go to my face. So it's the same thing with forgiveness issues. If somebody is being abusive to you, you don't go and, blast them, because they're just showing you what you feel on the inside you deserve. There's some reason you think you deserve to be abused, or you have been an abuser yourself, and therefore you're attracting that energy. That energy is still coming back to you. So what radical forgiveness does is it uses tools to shift that energy. That energy that we're carrying with us that is attracting these negative experiences can be shifted and eliminated so that you don't attract those things anymore. So some of the tools are free and easy to get. Some cost a little bit, but they're easy to do and they always work. In my experience, they always work. So for example, one of the tools is a worksheet. It's a 2-page worksheet. You can go to my website, KymKennedy.com, KYMKennedy.com, and download it for free. And it's a 2-page thing. You fill it out, and at the beginning, you're going to be in your stage of upset, but I guarantee you by the end of the worksheet, you are in a place of peace. There's an energy that has passed over you that, or out of you, that you didn't even know was really there. All of the tools of radical forgiveness use 5 stages. The first stage is to tell the story. We have to get comfortable with expressing ourselves, clearing that throat chakra, saying what happened, admitting our hurt, admitting it, acknowledging it. It's extremely important to go through that phase of telling the story of what happened to you. The second phase is to feel the feelings. You can't heal what you can't feel. You've got to express those feelings. You've got to cry, you've got to emote, you've got to scream, holler, beat the couch with a pillow. Do whatever it takes to get that energy up and out of your body. Because whatever you don't express, whatever feelings you don't express, you repress. And that means you sit on them and you sit on them. And that will eventually become dis-ease. It turns into heart dis-ease and cancer and diabetes. That energy it's going to get out one way, shape, or form. And if it gets out in the form of a disease, that's because you didn't take advantage of the opportunities there are to heal those negative energies in our body. The third stage of radical forgiveness is to collapse the story. There's the facts of the story, and then there's the interpretation of the facts. The fact could be something simple. My daddy left. I interpret it as my daddy left because I'm a bad person. He didn't love me. He wanted to get away from me, which probably has nothing to do with why daddy left. But because, especially if I'm a child, I'm going to internalize that. And once I get that belief system going, then no man is going to love me. and I'm always going to be left. And you create those experiences. So what radical forgiveness tools do is break apart what really happened and how am I interpreting it. The pain resides in the interpretation. The fourth stage of radical forgiveness is to reframe the story from the spiritual big picture. What could God have been trying to help me learn here? Why did I attract this person? What is the lesson in this situation? A lot of times it has to do with self-love. I know nobody taught me how to love myself. I'm teaching my granddaughter though. But my mother never said, now Kim, the most important thing you can ever do for yourself is to love yourself. Nobody ever told me that. And so therefore I don't. If you don't love yourself, then you're going to attract other people who don't love you either, because that's the mirror at work. So the most important thing we have to learn is to love ourselves. And then the fifth stage of radical forgiveness is called integrating the shift. And that just means to do something physical. After you've done that worksheet, it takes about an hour to do a worksheet. Then get up and take a walk or do some breathing exercises. Do something to integrate the new thinking and belief system into the cells of your body so they don't come back. That's pretty much radical forgiveness in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for that explanation.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to a point that you made, that we attract into our lives those lessons that we need to learn or to address within our own selves. And I'm sure there are people that may not quite understand that because they feel things are always happening to them and not for any other reason. So can you address that a little bit more, that attraction?
Yeah, well, I think quantum physicists have been revealing of late that everything is energy. Everything is energy. And so the energy that we are is the energy that we attract. I am not a quantum physicist, so I can't explain it any better, except that I do know that there are all kinds of things in this world that are going on that we just don't know. I mean, how are we going to know? We don't know. I don't know how I got this finger on my hand. I don't know how I got the hand. So there's some things you just have to accept are God's mysteries. But once you can discover and see those patterns working, it's amazing. It's delightful. It's because really what you end up with, instead of hating the other person, you thank them for showing you what you need to learn. Showing you what you need to shift within yourself. So again, if I see abuse on the outside, then I know that for some reason I think I deserve abuse. Well, what's that all about? And you don't even really have to. You don't have to discover the root cause. Although I can tell you, most of the time the root cause is in childhood. Childhood, we take on wounds. Wounds are inflicted upon us as children. We don't know what to do with them, so we hold on to them and bring them forward into adult life. And the patterns repeat, and they repeat, and they repeat. And we keep attracting the same scenario because we're trying to heal it. We're trying to heal it. I can tell you a situation with my daughter. Most of my stories involve my daughter. But my daughter, let me explain it. At 24, I was married with a house, a car, a degree, and a job. At 24, my daughter was in my house. She had none of the above and wasn't trying to get anything. So I'm furious. So every good coach has a coach. So I called my coach, and my radical forgiveness coach, and she said, "What's the word you think of when you think of her?" And I said, "I think she's a burden." Well, truthfully, I didn't really think she was a burden, but that's what bubbled up. So we were also trying to figure out why I wasn't using my voice at that time. I had all this training and I wasn't doing workshops, I wasn't coaching anybody, I wasn't teaching anything. So I got to thinking, and I realized that when I was in junior high school, I was president of student government. I had given the graduation speech. I was in the drama club, in the public speaking club. I was really using my voice. And then my parents separated. And my mother went into stone cold victim mode. Woe is me, woe is me. And I didn't want to be a burden to her. So I stopped everything cold. I didn't do anything extracurricular in high school or college. I didn't join any groups. I didn't do anything except work and go to school, and work and go to school. So fast forward 20 some years, my daughter is still mirroring the image of burden that I thought I was to my mother. So I did my radical forgiveness work on my daughter and my mother and my father and myself. And within a week, my daughter said, I'm going to go move out. I'm going to go live over here. And I was like, bye. Then there were other burdens that I wasn't even aware of that were in my life that started moving out. I had a woman who worked for me who I couldn't trust. I couldn't trust her with the expense report. I couldn't trust her to be where she said she was going to be. Couldn't trust her to be on time anywhere. She was really a burden. I had to watch her like a hawk. She moved to Kansas City. I had a woman who lived on my street, lovely lady, had a stroke, couldn't drive for over a year. I was driving her to church. And that was a burden. She moved off my street. And then I had 3 credit cards. Didn't know when I was going to get the money to pay those credit cards off. They're just swirling around in my head, over my head, you know, really weighing heavily. Interest rates go up the minute you don't make a payment. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, unexpected income paid all 3 of those credit cards off. So when you see the mirror, when you shift the energy in you, the mirror has to change. It is spiritual law. So it is so worth it to do this work. It is just so worth it to take the time and shift that energy so that your energy can change. I've done it for my bosses. I've done it for students. I've done it with certainly family members. And I've gotten so, I believe in this so deeply that I've made a commitment that I will never have another argument. Because it's never about them. There's nothing to argue about. It's always something in me that's up for healing. So if I find myself irritated or upset or pissed off with somebody else, I will go into my closed closet, like Jesus. I will go into my space, do a worksheet, use the CD, whichever process I choose. I will shift that energy to the best of my ability, and I will see the mirror change instantly.
That's so beautiful because we're, like I said earlier, we're not trained to do that. And you made a point that you're helping your granddaughter because you understand that most of these traumatic events happen in childhood. So I'm speaking to this worldwide audience. What advice or suggestion would you make to the people that's partaking of this knowledge where they can truly impact the lives of the people in their family?
Well, first of all, understand that I believe we all agree to a certain amount of pain in each lifetime. We agree to come to the planet to experience some things. Because if you believe that we don't really die, this, to me, a life experience is like doing a play. You know, you have certain characters that you choose. You know, we choose our parents, we choose our children. You know, they say we travel in soul groups. And as such, I might have been the child last time, my daughter might have been the mommy last time. So I say all of that to say, don't expect perfection in anybody's life. As much as I adore my granddaughter, I can't stop her from being wounded. I know that there are wounds taking place on the playground, at her daddy's, heck, our house. I mean, we don't mean it, but what she takes in as an insult or even feeling abandoned when we want to watch TV instead of play with her. All of those things are, taking root, and it's nothing we can do. That's just what life is like. So don't beat yourself up. I told my daughter, you'll have to go get a counselor just like I did. We all have to. We all have emotional and wounds. But what I would say is definitely, I do everything I can not to stop her from crying, because getting energy, that negative energy out, is the best thing you can do. So instead of saying, I'll give you something to cry for, go to your room, I don't want to hear that. That's teaching them to stuff it. So any way I can try and teach her that it's okay that she feels, and to go ahead and feel those feelings, let that out, that's fine. That's one thing I would say to do. And then to love themselves. I am teaching her the song, I love myself just the way I am, that I don't know, I got it through the Louise Hay work that I've done. So I'm constantly supporting her and loving herself. And then in general, to teach that, like I just told her yesterday, she was complaining about some little girl on the playground, and I said, do you know that mean people are usually have been treated mean? That's where they learn how to be mean. I said, so you don't want to give her more mean, She was mean to you probably because somebody was mean to her. Try not to join in that, cycle. Just try to love her anyway. It's a whole nother world. It's just a whole nother world. Life is good. First of all, let me give credit to the author of Radical Forgiveness and the creator of the concept, Colin Tipping, who lives in Marietta, and when he's not in London, where he's from, is a wonderful man. I've been fortunate. I know God sent me to Atlanta to be able to work directly with him. I've worked with him on several occasions, and I'm very grateful for all that he has created and shared with me. But I can be contacted at kim@kimkennedy.com, KYM@KYMKennedy.com. And my website is www.kimkennedy.com. Please feel free to email me any old time. I'd be happy to help.
And thank you for sharing so powerfully with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
Greetings. I am glad to be here, Sandy. It's always wonderful when you and I connect and do something that will hopefully provide some uplift to the community. I am a singer-songwriter, a book author, public speaker, workshop facilitator, and all of my efforts are focused on uplifting consciousness. So that's what I do with my brain anyway. I do some other things with my hands. I like building stuff. So I've been a remodeling contractor for 40 years.
When you say building consciousness, exactly what do you mean by that?
Well, my own personal experience is one where my growth and evolution, which I'm sure that we're all here about, we're all here to grow. And we can only grow by virtue of our awareness, by virtue of bursting through previous limitations about what we know about ourselves, what we understand about life, our willingness and capacity to integrate with other people. So consciousness, building consciousness, is opening up awareness. And I think that begins with our knowledge of ourselves, our knowledge of why we are here on the planet, rather than just living a random kind of existence, allowing the pieces to fall where they may, and even considering ourselves a victim of fate and circumstance. I believe that we have a purpose. I believe that as spiritual beings, we've incarnated into this world with a purpose, and that's specific for each and every one of us. I used to believe that it was sort of nebulous or general, and that as a Pentecostal minister many, many years ago, we were only here to serve God, praise God, go to church 4 or 5 days a week, and do the best that you can to live by the Bible. And my process of becoming disenchanted with the limitations of that, it was sort of like, if you're a member of this church or this ideology, then you're saved and you're going to heaven. If you're not, then you're going to hell. So the objective was to get everybody to think and behave the way we did. Well, I came to understand clearly that's not the way that life is intended. Your path and my path are unique to us. Our life experiences endow us with opportunities to extract the growth out of them if we understand that we are here with a particular purpose. So my aim through my music, through teaching, through writing, is to bring what insight I've been granted to bear on helping one to understand their purpose, and thereby increase their awareness of themselves and raise their consciousness. So when I came out of Pentecostal ministry, I was sort of disenchanted to the point that I didn't want to minister to anybody about anything at any time, under any circumstances. But I knew better. I knew my heart, I knew my soul, I knew that I love people and I love to help wherever I can. And I knew that I had some awareness and knowledge and wisdom and a gift, and many gifts, that I had to employ somewhere. I couldn't hide out. So I just sort of petitioned the universe that if I'm going to minister, which I know that I am, I need some things that are going to speak to people where they live and speak to them about their particular processes. So I began to dig, and I found myself back to where I was as a child, when I used to go out into the woods and sit 5 and 6 years old and have those contemplative kind of conversations with God that were largely born of my angst around my living with my stepfather and being harshly treated. I wanted to know, why am I here? And why is it that I have to go through this circumstance? Why is it that I'm not being loved and treated like I have value? Yeah, I got an answer, and basically I had to find a way to fortify my spirit against some of the assault that I came under as a child. My stepfather, because he was somewhat envious of my father and suspected that one day my mother would go back to him, he told me that I was just like my father, I'd never be anything, and that I was not at home, and that I was a nothing, and not to have an opinion in his house because it wouldn't be counted. So I would go out into the woods, and I'm crying and I'm trying to feel good about myself. So I'm talking with God and asking the bigger why questions. And what I heard was that, first of all, I was not alone, and that I was divinely protected, and that the experiences that I was going through, based on how I processed them, remaining respectful, not fighting back, would fuel my purpose, would equip me to be able to speak to and reach the souls of people who were suffering lack of self-love, who had been marginalized, and just to hold on and to be strong. And I'd understand how I could use those experiences as I grew older. So I've had to fall back and reference that many times in my life, to know that I am on purpose, to know that my life has meaning and reason, and to know that the experiences that I've gone through had applicable purpose for how I could minister. So that's where I found myself.
During the time that I've known you, you have lived through a lot of opportunities to test what you were just saying.
Yeah.
And you always did it with an understanding that that was your purpose, to help that other person to get to wherever they needed to be.
Exactly. And what I've done in a direct way where ministry is concerned, and I mentioned earlier that I was afforded exposure to some information that gave me a better clarity about how to minister and apply purpose on an individual basis. What I found out about my own path, and this was maybe 1990, and it unfolded from there, was that specifically for me, I'm here to teach people how to accept love, teach people how to love and value themselves. So what I came to understand was that not only in my childhood and those dire circumstances, challenging circumstances that I was under, but everything that I've experienced from then on, even if it were the most direct affront to my sense of self, I had the opportunity to choose how I process it, where I put it. And with the reference point that I'm here to teach people how to accept love, that let me know that I've got to love myself first. And the greatest test quite often to that is when you have those who are closest to you who deal with you as though they don't love you. For instance, my mother, when I was 16 years old, my punishment was that I couldn't go to church. Now that may sound weird, but they knew that that's where they could get me because I was very much involved in the church. I sang in the choir. I sold the most candy bars, the most chicken dinners. I did the announcements. I beat the drums in this Pentecostal church when I was growing up. And we weren't required to go to church. It was, even though my grandfather was a Pentecostal minister, I didn't have any exposure to him. But my mother grew up in the church, had bad experiences, didn't require that we go. But at about 13 years old, partly because I wanted to sing in the choir, partly because I wanted to be around the girls, I decided I would get involved in church. And one day, when I was 16, we had this program, and I was scheduled to do all the things that I could in that service. And I got up, and we were eating breakfast in the basement, and I went to the bathroom to get ready. My mother asked me, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm getting ready for church." She said, "Well, not until you clean up this basement." Okay. So everybody's sitting around. I knew that was my job, but time is of the essence right now. So I said, "Oh, Mama, can't I clean it up when I come back?" She says, "No, and for pouting, you're not going." Okay. So I waited for everybody to clear out, and I went and did my thing, cleaned up, and got dressed and went up and asked if I could go. She said, "No, you're not." I said, every one of my sisters and brothers, depending on who would have the most influence, up there to ask her, they all begged, and "Mama, let him go to church." "No, he's not going." So at this particular time, I made the decision, it's better to serve God and obey God than Mama. So I took off running. I took off running to church, top speed. We had 2 programs. In between the programs, we ate lunch, walked over to the park next door. On the way back, I encountered my mother and a friend of hers walking from her house. I met my mother in front of my girlfriend, and her sister told me, "Your dad is going to kill you when you get home." All right. So I said, "Oh, Mama, I just wanted to go to church." And she lit into me, just flailing. And I'm trying to hold her off. We're in the driveway of the church with the gravel. She slips and falls. She gets up, goes up to the beer garden where my stepfather is, tells him that I knocked her down. So they come down there, and I know that they're on their way. All right, so I hide in the bathroom of the church. Nobody sees me go in. So they pull up, skidding into the driveway, gravel flying everywhere. Everybody comes outside to figure out what's going on, and they interrogate the people about where I am. Nobody knows because they didn't see me go into the bathroom. All right, so they tell church people in essence that they're lying. "Where's your basement?" "He's hidden in the basement." "We don't have a basement. Every church has a basement. Where is it?" So I'm listening to all this from a window like this, and they're in the driveway. So they say, "I tell you what, when he comes back, when you find him, you tell him he better get himself home." And they're about to go, and this two-year-old boy walks into the bathroom, and he hollers, "Here he is." So it's like, oh God. So they put me in the car, take me home, and probably the most debilitating, humiliating thing that's ever happened to me in my life happened on that day. My stepfather took me home, made me strip down naked, and beat me at 16 years old in front of his 2 male friends. Yeah. Beat me with a belt, beat me with a switch, told me to go to bed. I couldn't eat. My mother told me, never speak to me again. You're not my son. I disown you. My brothers and sisters thought that I'd hit mama, so they were all angry with me. I felt broken, that if it were not for God in my life, I would have probably turned out a much different person than I am today by virtue of that experience. So I'm not allowed to get on the phone. The people from the church are calling to ask how I'm doing. They're telling them basically to go to hell. And I get up out of the bed and I call my father in Detroit. I tell him what happened. He says, tell James, your stepfather, to call me. I says, I can't because he told me not to get on the phone. I mean, now looking back, he knows I've already called him, but, I was afraid. He calls, talks to my stepfather. My stepfather calls back and comes back into the room and tells me, your father said that I should have killed you. Yeah. So I share that story to say that from early on, I've been prepared for things that you referenced in my life, that challenging assaults might come upon me. But the experience that I had, that conversation in the woods when I was 5 years old, grounded me to know that I wasn't going through these things, because I was a victim. I was going through them because strength was being placed in me or brought out of me. And that strength could be used to do the writing, the singing, to extract the wisdom and the love of self that I can share, that others can find that in themselves. And consequently, I've been successful in doing that. As painful and challenging as some of it has been, I've been successful. But when I think about health and well-being, with my Bible background, I can always find a reference, and I think about John 3:2. It says, beloved, above all things I would that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So well-being for me has always been an inside-out job, from the soul to the cells. Okay. So I know that had I processed a lot of these experiences that have come upon me in a way of victimization, if I'd held on to that pain, if I'd not learned how to cry and to release that, if I'd not known within myself that I am valuable, I'd have a whole lot of challenges right now. So it's about how you process whatever it is that you encounter. It's not about the thing, it's about what you make of it.
Because once you have that unconditional self-love,
Yeah.
then you can deal with obstacles.
You can deal with them. Because again, another challenging area for me in my life has been in my relationship with my children. One thing that anybody who will ever know me will attest to is that you can't control me. You can't blackmail me. You can't buy me. You can't threaten me. But at the same time, I'm a very reasonable, compassionate, loving, and giving person. But you can't take anything from me, because I don't really have anything in this world, that you can get to. Anything you can get to, I don't hold that valuable. But you can't get to my soul. But one of the declarations I made about my family life is that I wanted to be there for my children, and I had a little bit of judgment around my father about not being there for me. The lesson that I've learned is that what you judge, what you put out, you're going to have to face at some point. So my children, when I decided that their mother and I were no longer going to be able to be together because she wanted to remain Pentecostal and mimic the pastor's declaration that unless I came back to church, I'd never be successful, I'd never be anything, a story that I've heard before in my life and that I wasn't going to put up with, I had to part paths with her, and my children have been fed a story about me that's not flattering. Time has availed me an opportunity to mend a lot of that, but I've never offered a counter story. The thing I've chosen to do is to be myself. I don't want my children to have to make a choice between their mother and me. They'll see the way that life flows, what truth is, ultimately, or they will choose to not do so, and then they'll have to confront their judgment, you know. But that's been a very challenging thing for me because, again, I love my children. I have 11 children, 10 of them by that one woman, and God knows I wanted to stay with her. But again, you have to make a determination sometimes about where your highest value is. And for me, it was the salvation of my soul rather than the preservation of my family. Hard choice.
Well, you've certainly given us a lot to think about and to consider, and your experiences in life are real. The whippings, the beatings, that may be a continuation from that plantation.
Mm-hmm.
The religious doctrines that would have us not love everybody, but love only those that believe the same thing and hate everybody else. Or and the mother giving statements to the children that turns them against the fathers. All of those are things that we truly deal with in our community.
Exactly.
And so you pointed out some really great examples, and by teaching us that love is the answer through all of that.
Exactly. Love of self first, you know. And quite often, you know, you might be invited into a tug of war as to whether you're going to love yourself or love someone more than yourself. But the reality is that you can't. You can love thy neighbor as thyself, which to me says that you can only love someone to the extent that you love yourself. You know.
Well, thank you. In closing, is there any additional advice, suggestions, words of wisdom that you would like to leave with our worldwide audience?
Well, just a little something. The fact that we are all here with a particular purpose. It's in our DNA. The kingdom of God is within. You know, we quest for lifelong to understand what our purpose is. It's not a vocation. It's not what you do. That's a calling. But there's an aspect of humanity that we're all enrolled to grow into and to further on one end, and to model and demonstrate because we've already obtained a level of mastery on another end. It's for us to sit and to know what that is, because every experience that we have in life aims directly to the center and core of what we're here for. It's a matter of understanding it, and by all means to not consider ourselves a victim under any circumstances. Plumb the depths of your experiences to know what seed of benefit the creator of your being is offering you by virtue of your experiences, and learn to process them to your advantage regardless of what they are, without wearing rose-colored glasses, without being naive, but by being powerful and being purposeful and knowing that you are divinely protected.
Thank you, Raja.
You're welcome. Glad to be with you.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
So the whole idea is to uplift ourselves, uplift the community through education, through spiritual practice, through the food that we eat, through the fun that we have, you know. And so that's the basic idea of Nature's Garden for Victory and Peace, which is also named after our beloved, I like to think of him as the second, well, maybe not the second, but a 21st century or 20th century multi-genius, George Washington Carver, who wrote a bulletin in 1942 he used to publish bulletins that were disseminated throughout the county for the farmers. And he wrote this particular bulletin, was bulletin number 43 in 1942, and it was called Nature's Garden for Victory and Peace. And I love the name. When I visited the museum that's on the campus of Tuskegee University, I saw that bulletin. And I said, you know, when I get ready to move towards building this institution, I want that name. And it resonated with me so profoundly because of nature. A lot of what we're doing is learning from nature. Living in a rural area like this, there's so much that you can observe. I mean, wherever you live, you can observe it, but you can really observe it when there are fewer people, less houses, a lot less industries, less cars and whatnot. And there's so many different types of bugs and bugs that I had never seen. Different types of trees and flowers. And so through the observation of nature, you learn a lot about the nature within oneself. And we have a collective group. There's a good friend of ours, and I think you know Akiba and her husband Kareem. They have been working and developing this concept called nature culture. And so I've actually adopted that from them, and we're working together to continue to have nature culture become a publication. They have written an introduction, and they want to do that in a participatory manner where there would be a group of thinkers that would read through the document and add to it and really flesh it out so that it is something that uniquely is reflective of our mindset. You know, in some ways it might be similar to permaculture, but you know, we want, one of the things that we think is important as people of ancient ancestry, being the first people on the planet, we think that it's important that we reclaim our own intellectual property. And so even in the construction of homes and a lot of the trendy things that are available, people talk about these I think they're called earth ships. They're like houses that really in some ways are kind of built into maybe like a small hill. But it really is like a hut concept, you know, in the way that it's shaped. And so that we believe that it's important, again, even in that example, to give credit where credit is due, because we are a people that so much of our contribution has been either stolen, negated, and not credited to us. So that's part of what we have to do, is to reclaim. And when we do that, we're actually giving people who don't know a healing. It's healing to tell the truth, you know, to tell the historical truth about everything, you know. So the nature culture is a very important aspect of the development of Nature's Garden for Victory and Peace, because it serves as like a philosophy, really, you know. It attempts to define who we are in relationship to the cosmos, the heavens, and the cycles of the earth and the seasons and everything above as below. So, you know, Nature's Garden for Victory and Peace wants to work with people who are passionate about their peace, you know, and if it fits into the definition that I had given of art, and if this person wants to be a part of a collective mind, you know, we're striving to develop divine unity, you know, just think about that, not just unity, but divine unity, you know, and that's going to be a great effort, you know. It's going to require that we pull on everything that's good about us, you know, that we will have challenges, we will have struggles, but that we will always come back to each other, you know, because we have to. We have to, you know. And so, you know, and then when we're successful in doing this, because we will be successful, I sometimes I laugh and I always say to people, no more divorces, you know. It's like new enterprises, new initiatives is like a marriage, you know. And it's like, okay, you know, we want to do this thing. And if we decide that we're going to do it and we're going to do it together, we're in it. It's a commitment. It's a commitment. And we have to figure out how we reconcile any differences that may arise. We figure out the natural, healthy way to resolve that in a way that allows us to continue on our path, you know, and that this is the way to do that. So we're still just about 3 years in, and I feel very proud in what we have accomplished and what we're still wanting to achieve. It's a personal journey that allows you to really grow a lot, you know, and to really pay attention to your own process. And this is another really critical, I think, pillar, you know, that is more about shaping your own development. And that the more that we are able to do that, the easier it is to connect with other people, you know. It's not so much about pointing the finger at others or pointing out, you know, that if we can get everybody involved in a process of self-reflection, contemplation, and then self-correction, you know. I mean, there's this Gary Zukov, I think he wrote a book called Spiritual Partnerships. And so that we develop these relationships with individuals where we actually give each other permission to give us feedback, you know, but that feedback is offered in a certain type of way that allows you to hear it and to begin to shift, you know, in various ways. So there's so much, you know, there's so much that we don't know, but we also know that everything that we need to know is inside of us, you know. And so that's another one of the beautiful things about this process is, you know, attempting to access this ancient wisdom that we have, you know, and really like falling in love with your people again, you know. And so I feel very, very lucky to be a part of a larger community of brothers and sisters that are moving in this direction. And I think that we realize that we're in a special era and a special time. I mean, even, you know, I think even so-called modern science is also acknowledging that there are shifts that are occurring. Most of the biblical and sacred books also acknowledge that we're in the end of a certain era, you know, and so to be a part of that is very motivating and very exciting, you know, and it gives you a kind of knowingness that we don't have to be as anxious as one might be when we look around and see the kinds of things that are taking place politically, spiritually, and in a lot of ways, you know, our people seem to, in certain instances, appear to be imploding, you know, under the under the authority of this system that we live in, you know. And my observation is that the answers lie in us coming back home to who we are at the deepest possible level, you know, and that this discovery is such a beautiful awakening that once you get onto the path, you know, it's like you're full of joy, you know, and it's a knowing that just keeps you moving. Keep putting one foot in front of the other one, knowing that there's something on the other side of it, you know. It's a quieting acceptance, and at the same time there's this feeling of, you know, we don't have all day. So it's kind of the flip side of the same coin, which is a principle in life itself, that the moment you think you got it, you realize that there's more. There's still more, and always more, and it's infinite, you know. But I'm having a good time, you know. I'm having a really, really good time. And I've noticed that a lot of what I'm doing now are things that I started doing when I was in my 20s, like when I was graduating from high school in the early 70s, the late 60s. And it was during that time of kind of like the Black consciousness period, and I was right there with it, you know. I joined the Nation of Islam. I was in the Nation for 10 years, and I learned a lot of things about who the original people are. I learned about, you know, caring for my body, how to eat to live, how to fast, how to work with the sisters, you know, and something about, you know, the roles that men and women might play. Okay, so now, you know, one of the things that I learned, one of the big principles that I learned in that movement was that religion was to teach us self-government, you know. And when I thought about that, I said, yeah, you know, because it has its doctrines, it has its rules, and it provides a lot of guidance about, you know, what to do, what not to do. But that once you feel like you've attained that self-governance, you become free, you know. So I reached the point where I needed to be freer, but I still noticed that even within that freedom, that I still was able to make decisions about how I wanted to project myself. And so, you know, I still wear lots of long dresses, loose fitting clothing, I've been wearing scarves, you know, both around my neck, on my shoulders, sometimes on my head, you know, since, like I said, since the late 60s and 70s, never stopped, you know. But then now to see it becoming more, you know, just more trendy. I still fast, you know. I don't always do the Ramadan fast, even though I think it's a very good thing because people do it in unison with a community. I tend to fast now at the change of the seasons. I do the seasonal fast, and it's a great way to cleanse. It's a great way to also help regulate your weight, to get you back on track, you know. Because even though I am a vegetarian, I guess I'm a pescatarian, but I'm eating very little fish these days because even the fish isn't clean either, you know, so you have to be very careful of that. And I enjoy cooking. I'm really interested in developing a full-fledged herbal garden, and maybe one or two specialty products. And being able to package some of those things and to be able to offer it to the community. Because one of the things I've noticed is that we have a history of having been great cooks, you know, and and we know lots of people who are still great cooks. I consider myself to be not maybe a great cook, but a good cook. But we do know people in our community that are great cooks. But largely, I guess because of the hustle and the bustle and the time constrictions and all this fast food, we're just not seeing our people taking the time to really prepare wholesome meals. You know, sometimes they're dealing with a lot of packaged food or food that comes out of the freezers or even out of cans, you know. And so it's like all of this has to be retaught, So the quality of the food that we eat has a direct relationship to our health, you know. So does the water, the quality of the water that we drink. And then all of these things become problematic because we live in a system that, capitalizes, so that now we're drinking, it's not good to drink water out of plastic bottles. We don't want to drink the water from the tap, but then, it's almost like you have to go out of our way to find the best quality of food and drinks, But that's something that we should do. And as a collective, we can come together and we can begin to create food co-ops, and we're fortunate that we have somebody that doesn't live too far from here in a neighboring town. It's only like 15 miles away. And he found great water, and he's actually pumping it out, and he's gotten it all approved, the quality. It's a nice pH, I think it's above 7.5, pH. And you can taste the water and see that it's a much higher grade. So there's just so many things that we can do, but once we begin to really change first our mindset and open ourselves to these new and more wonderful ways of doing what we do, people will immediately start to feel the benefit and get onto this path of falling in love with oneself and then with each other.
Thank you, Musha. You have just been incredible. You laid it all out for us, from the inception or the thought to the actions that you took as far as going into prayer and meditation, being in a one-on-one conversation with God, and then having a reading by one of your spiritual advisors, and just walking through that whole process. And so you helped us to see and to understand what it is that we need in order to create a community that benefits and honors us. So thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me share that story.
Yes.
Every time I hear my own self share the story, it's almost as though I discover new aspects of the story. So it's a healing process.
Yes, yes.
Thank you
And
so
your
much.
property, your land, the energy that's here, it's incredible. It's incredible. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. And I want to thank you again, too, for coming out during our second annual Spring Healing Arts Festival. And this will be an annual event. And people are still talking about it. And we were so happy that at the second annual we were able to attract as many people as we did. And we know that it's going to be something that will help our beloved members of the community who have not yet fully embraced some of the ideas that you are talking about in terms of wellness, sustainability. Very, very important work. And so, thank you.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
Our Cities Raw Reality Cafe is just that. It's the commonality of my reality, of my life, the things that I've experienced. So the healer, the community activist, that part of myself went into a journey as I came out of the political activism, the more focused political activism, into the spiritual path. Because as I've said, I've always been a spiritual being, not so much a religious one, but a spiritual one. I wanted to be able to serve the divine, to serve my ancestors. My expression of spirituality is universal. It comes from nature. I've studied many different paths. and I found that they're really all saying the same thing in their own way. So that which works best for me is that of nature, because nature is always speaking to us. And nature showed me natural altars, so I was able to create them naturally in my home. Nature showed me how to live, how to eat, how to embrace the cycle of life. Even that portal called death is actually part of life. You know? So, in my spiritual journey, I knew I wanted to serve. I had been reading many books on some of the older spiritual paths, and it was saying that a householder, there's a belief that a householder, person who did everyday work and was a parent or a father or a caretaker or whatever, that they could never attain spiritual enlightenment in this lifetime because they couldn't dedicate themselves to monastic living or those austerities of enlightened beings. And I was really disheartened, and I was like, well, I don't believe that, because first of all, it sounds like more patriarchal madness, and it sounds like elitism, and it sounds like it's a club. And I don't believe that the divine set things up like that. I just don't believe that. I didn't know what to believe, but I knew it was something else other than what I was being given. And so with that in mind, I continued my studies and asked for guidance. And I came across a book called The Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore. A dear friend of mine, Adama, gave me that book. And in the book, there was a passage where the author was talking about the divine manifesting even in a mother as she was making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for her child. And I was like, yes! I knew it, because it's about the love. When you are caretaking, when you are nurturing, that's love in action. So then there is a place to go and sit and be still and experience the love of the divine. But there is also a place for love in action, to experience the divine through one's service for others. So then I ran down that road. I ran down that road to discover more, to discover what it was to be in the state of grace, to be in the state of nirvana, of nahast, of samadhi, all of the austere state, all of this divine illumination. How did these enlightened ones come about it? Well, they lived rich and full lives in accordance with their times. So for me to live that in accordance with my time, I knew that I could be of service, and that was the actual living, moving, breathing meditation. If I'm always constantly remembering the divine, if I'm always constantly making sure that every act is a prayer, then I am living a grace-filled life. Now the problem was for me at that point that I didn't know what my life's purpose was. I knew it was more than what I was doing, but I didn't know what it was. And at that point, I was doing spiritual counseling. I was primarily a natural hair care provider. So I groomed and styled locks. I started them for people. I braided, because when I became an entrepreneur, when I left my dad's office, I did hair. I was a braider. And I supported my 5 children primarily as a single mom, doing hair. So I also made jewelry, and I also did spiritual counseling. Now my grandmother, my mother's mother, taught me how to craft, how to do beadwork and jewelry, and how to take yarn and wrap beer bottles and things and make them into vases, and how you could make it into clothes, and just all kind of creative things with my hands. So thank you, ancestors. Thank you, divine, for these hands. Our people have forgotten what we can do with our hands. We always say, I can't find a job. Well, make a job. Look around and see what there is a need for, and figure out how to fulfill that need. And it may not be your life's goal to be a toilet paper producer, but I promise you, you will never go hungry. You figure out how to make toilet paper, how to recycle, because I don't know of any black-owned toilet paper companies. But it's something everybody uses, everywhere, every day, around the world, except if you are off the grid. Now that may not be your life's longing, but if you can do something like that as your foundation, that becomes the platform for you to fulfill your life's longing. And while you're at it, you're fulfilling a need to make life better for other people. So, the saying that success is not an end game, it's the journey. It's true, because if you are striving to be the best that you can be, you're never going to be finished doing that. Because there'll always be the next level, 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 and so on. Because remember, energy never dies. It just transforms, changes into something else. So that having been said, I also did spiritual counseling, as I mentioned. My great-great-grandmother, my mother's side, was a seer. I didn't know. I didn't even find out till I was 40. My uncle told me. He was asking me what I did. And I said, well, I primarily do spiritual counseling at that point in my life. That's what I was doing. I did some hair, but the spiritual counseling thing was really taking off. I was doing readings for people like Bobby Hemmett, Ritual Pukram, Phil Valentine, and it came about as a calling because as a child, I could see spirits. I could hear spirits. I felt spirits. Now, my parents and everybody told me there was no such thing as ghosts, and I wasn't seeing, feeling, and experiencing what I was. So what that ended up producing for me was a state of fear. I was afraid all the time. And I felt alone because they weren't seeing it, and they were telling me that what I was seeing wasn't real, and they'd say, girl, you crazy. So I started thinking, well, maybe I am. But as fate would have it, others who didn't know me at all saw that I had a gift, and they would ask me, particularly when I traveled down to Mexico one summer. I backpacked down there with my 3 older sons who were little at that time. People were stopping me everywhere, asking me to do readings for them. I had just learned how to do tarot readings for myself. And I was like, no. And I didn't speak Spanish that well. But finally, we were in this little motel, and the receptionist kept coming upstairs asking me to do readings. Finally, I said, okay, just let me pray on it. So I did my own reading, which said I should do it. And then I prayed. I said, okay, Most High, if you really want me to do this, you have to speak through me, because I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know how to speak to these people. I said, and furthermore, I would never want to mislead anyone. So if I ever seem like that's what I'm getting ready to do, take this away from me, shut it down. I don't want it, because I never want to be the person who's misleading someone. So this woman came back up to the room, and I did a reading for her. She was so excited about it and happy. She went and got her cousin and her sister, and oh my God, while my children were in Mexico with me, that's how I supported us, doing readings. And I refused to take money for it. I said, you're not gonna lock me up in some Mexican prison for being a charlatan. Oh no, because this is how I knew it was real, because I didn't know Spanish that well to be able to translate the information to give it to this woman. Spirit was speaking through me to be able to give it to her. So I was like this bystander watching this process, and yet it was me. So it got to be a thing where finally, I went to this little village outside the town with this woman to do a reading for her and her sister. And there were pyramids all around this village. They were mud huts with these little corrugated iron roofs. There may have been like maybe 15 little huts. Excuse me. And when I went in, I saw a few people looking. But when I came out, the whole little town was at this woman's door, and they wanted to touch me and feel me. And at the time, my head was totally shaved. Like y'all, I wore a little bandana around it. At the time, I was totally shaved. And I could feel the eyes of the local bruja, which, on me. And I said, oh my God, I am in over my head. I don't know what this is. I don't want to do it. If somebody casts a spell on me, I won't know what to do. I'm not doing this anymore. Okay, ancestors, Most High, whatever you're using me for has to be shut down because I'm not doing this anymore. I told the people. I got a message from God. I had to stop. So I hung out at the club. I did. I just totally shifted in what I was doing down there. I totally shifted. I think that's what happens to many people too. They become or are psychically sensitive and they don't know how to process it. And so they end up on medication. They end up eating crazy food, drinking, taking drugs. They end up losing it, you know, because we don't have the visible shaman and brujas and medicine people in our communities that folks can go to deal with that level of their healing, their well-being, their spiritual well-being. And so all of this has tied into my life's purpose.
Thank you for being with us today. And we know that you enjoyed our awesome, incredible speakers. And we certainly appreciate you as being a part of this groundbreaking historic event. And so we invite you to tomorrow perhaps invite a couple of more of your friends over, or how about at your church or your synagogue or your mosque, invite people and have a viewing party so that you can have a discussion afterwards. And so we look forward to being with you tomorrow with another group, anywhere from 5 to 7 incredible individuals that's going to share of their expertise, their love, their passion, because you know our speakers cover a wide variety of subjects, and it's things that you can immediately put into effect in your life. So thank you for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Love and wellness. Life, love and wellness. Life, love and wellness.
And that's what I want, more just what I need.